to borrow a coin and switch it out, you can still get away with it, so don't worry about it. Here in Canada, it's really easy because they all look the same. So we're gonna bend some nickels, and normally what I'll do in a night is I'll bend 20 nickels and I'll have them, because once this is what you're gonna be giving away, and you reuse your bent quarter. So you only need to bend 1 quarter. The nickel is something that you'll give away to them. So after you have put your electrical tape on the pliers, it's pretty simple. You're gonna take 1 set of pliers, get it not quite halfway, a little less than halfway, and lock that in place. Take the second set of pliers, go to the other end, but this you want just the end of the nickel, okay? And sometimes with the electrical tape, it's hard to find out where your end of the pliers are, so I'll just bend them down and bend that one up, and that shows me exactly where the ends of the pliers are. Tighten that up just a bit. Just like that. Nice, slow, steady pressure. And that'll give you a nice little bend. The hardest part of this whole trick is getting the pliers off the nickel. Like that. Okay? So what I've just done now is bent the nickel about halfway, as you can see. So to be honest, this is not the ideal bend, because the spectator's actually signing this nickel when it's already bent, and you're just covering it with your thumb. I've definitely done this a lot of times, and I'll still have them sign it. I just get bold with it and cover it this way and have them sign a small part. But let me bend another one and show you what would be a little more ideal, because what you would like to have is the bend, instead of being right here, pushed back just a little bit. So the bend actually happens here. It gives you more room for them to sign it. All right, so this is the way I usually have them bent. Just on the very edge. You don't need a lot. I mean, this is gonna bend in a spectator's hand, and this is gonna allow me to hold the coin very naturally and let them sign it without showing the bend. So there's another example of it. And I can hold it right here. They sign it, put it in their hand, okay? So, like I said, I'll bend about 15 or 20 of these, and then I'll be good to go for a couple days. Okay? So that's the bend, the proper bend. For the quarter, put this into view. The quarter, you're going to bend in your hand, so that can have more of a significant bend to it. All right? And there is a little bit of setup to this quarter. What you're going to do is put your initials on the quarter. And I always do it on the same side. So for this, we'll do it on the side with this elk, whatever the heck it is.
The deer, Adam?
With the deer. It looks like an elk to me. Damn Canadians.
The deer.
So on this,
get it right.
In the States, I always do it on the side with the president on there, just because if it is a state quarter, they're going to be focusing on your initials. So if I always do it on the side with the president, then we're good to go. So all you do is, with it bent, okay? Now try and keep the orientation in mind, because when you sign the quarter that you borrow, you're going to want the initials to look the same. And that's your setup. So let's get into the routine. All right, guys, explanation for world's easiest coin bend. I have my brother from another, Peter McKinnon, to help out. You're going to have your pre-bent coins. The quarter is signed, and the nickel you'll start with in finger palm in your left hand, okay, as you approach the spectator. The quarter goes into your right pocket, as well as the Sharpie. You come up, you can introduce yourself, shake their hand, that way it feels like your hands are empty, and I ask, do you have, anyone have a quarter and a nickel I can borrow? Pete, Unbelievable. He's got a quarter and a nickel. This is perfect. I say, all right, I'm gonna try something with the quarter, but we'll get to that in a second. You set that aside. And I want you to try something with the nickel. And actually, I'm gonna have you sign it. So that's just a false transfer. I've got my palmed nickel here. So I'm gonna have you try something with the nickel, but I'm gonna have you sign it. False transfer as I go south to get my Sharpie. So as I get my Sharpie, this goes into the pocket. And what I've done here, as I'm palming it, I hold it just to the edge, so when I do the false transfer, I can bring it up to the fingertips, and I'm holding where the bent part is. So from his angle, everything is copacetic. It looks like a normal coin.
Yeah, that's good.
So false transfer to here, bring out the Sharpie, say, could you go ahead and take the cap off and put your initials right on the nickel for me? Beautiful. Recap that, and I'll take that in a minute here. Could you hold your left hand palm out, and I'm going to take your signed nickel and just place it in your hand. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to place it so the bend goes right in the crotch of his fingers, and I'm going to close his hand around it. And a lot of magicians do, you'll literally see magicians do this. I'm going to take the coin and I'm going to put it in your hand, and they're very aggressive with people. Just be gentle with them. So show them the signed coin, place it in their hand, and say, could you just close your hand around it? Turn their hand palm down so they don't open their hand early. So you hold on to that. We're going to get to it in a minute. But first, what I'm going to try and do is something with the quarter. So I'm going to sign my initials on the quarter. And what you're doing is mimicking the initials you signed with the pre-bent quarter, okay? So I remembered it was on the side of the deer.
Correct.
And it's facing the deer. So I just make it look the same way as I did before. I say, great. Cap the Sharpie, and as you bring the Sharpie back into your pocket, still focusing here, I'm going to re-palm the bent quarter. So I come out with the bent quarter in palm. I show that the ink doesn't rub off, and draw attention to the quarter. So I'm just palming this here, but my actions can be very free. It looks like I'm just holding a quarter. Now there's two ways to do this bend. You can do it visually, where you rub, come over and rub again, and do like a spellbound change. And they get a visual bend, and you're palming it here. That's very angly. So if you're doing it one-on-one, you can get away with it. And I can say, watch the initials. If I just rub, you'll actually see the coin bend. And then I can come up to the fingertips and show it here as I'm palming it. So it looks great for one-on-one. The way that I honestly do it most often is I just do a bobo switch. So I show the signed coin, I toss it once, twice, and on the third one, I do a bobo switch, which is palm coin here, toss once, twice, and on the third one, I let go of the palmed coin as I bring this into palm, and I close my hand around it. So that's a very easy way to accomplish the same thing. If you're in a group, it's the best way to do it. You show the coin signed, 1, 2, and on 3, if I squeeze really hard, and don't feel guilty here. They're all looking here. So I palm this, I get comfortable with it in my hand, and I say 1, 2, 3. They see the initials, you show the coin bent. I always hold it in the coin that, the hand that I've got the palm coined in, so I can just hold it at the fingertips. Looks very natural. I say, now I've done this for a long time, so it's a little bit easier for me, but I'm gonna have you do it with your own signed nickel. We'll try and transfer a bit of energy by placing the coin here, snap and squeeze hard, but don't hurt your hand. Do you feel it warming up a bit? A lot of times they'll say yes, because their hand's getting warm. Great, it's warming up, then that means it's working. So I'll take the quarter, and if you turn your hand palm up and slowly open, we'll see if you got a bend. Now they see a bent nickel, and as they turn it over, it's got their initials on it, and they're left with your signed quarter that's bent and their signed nickel that's bent. So you're still dirty, but there's really no heat on it. At any point, you can casually go into your pocket and drop this off. I usually keep the quarter for myself for the next performance, but you can obviously, since you borrowed it from them, you can give them both. If that's the case, then when you pre-bend them, you just bend both. But it's, don't take this for granted. It's a very powerful moment when they open their hand and see a coin that they just gave you, that they just signed, is now bent in their own hand. It's called the world's easiest coin bend because you do all the work beforehand. All you need to do is a bobo switch and a false transfer, and you've got a multi-phase coin bend that happens in the spectator's hand where the coins are signed. So get out there and try it, and I think you'll be surprised with the reactions.